So I thought we'd do a little acne skincare face map reading chat this morning while I'm getting ready, because there's not a lot going on today, so there's not a lot to vlog. Face mapping. The first time I looked at like an acne face map was the first time I went off birth control. So I went on birth control for the first time when I was 18 and I left for college, and I was having irregular periods, which were most likely due to stress. And of course that was the solution. They give you birth control, you go on it, you figure things out. And I never really thought too much of it. I was using Proactive at the time. I never really had acne issues. That wasn't something I'd struggled with. I had a little bit of the spots up here. I had the like teen skincare routine. I used all that, did all of that. And then eventually, you know, had period issues, so I went on birth control. And it wasn't until I went off like 4 years later and was off it for a few months, and my skin was just, it was horrendous. It was nothing I'd ever seen before, nothing I'd ever experienced before. I had no idea what was happening. And so of course I was feeling like, okay, well, I need help. Like something needs to change. What's going on with my skin? And so I started looking at an acne map, and that was the biggest indicator of me that what's going on with your body has a lot to do with what's going on with your face. And so I had all of the breakouts over here. I'll try to find photos as I'm like talking to insert in this section for you. But I just had a lot going on and I'd never experienced it before, did not know what was happening. The only thing I have on my face right now is a Superglow or glow screen, and I'm just gonna do my makeup from there. I never had those issues before. So of course, I, being the daughter of a nurses plural, in a medical family that I'm in, I start looking for solutions, because we don't tend to go to the doctor unless like we're dying. Like if we can't fix it ourselves, if there's not a common answer for it, we're not going to actively seek out a bunch of things to deal with or do. That's just kind of the common thing. So I went and looking. And of course, by that time, I'd figured out that I had hormonal acne, and that it was most likely because I'd gone off my birth control and that my hormones were off. And I was like, okay, sounds great. You know, whatever. I went ahead and went back on birth control. I went to the dermatologist. They gave me the basic prescription for what they give everybody who comes in with acne, which is Cetaphil and, you know, whatever basic skincare routine. And I was like, well, you know, whatever. I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm going to do my hormone, like I'll do my birth control, I'll go back on Proactive, even though I don't really like it, because at the time one of the biggest things that I really wanted to do was to start my anti-aging skincare routine young. Like I wanted to get a really good skincare routine in at a young age. And I also thought, like, you know, you wake up in the morning and you've got these bleach pillowcases from Proactive, and I'm like, what is this doing to my skin if this is what my pillowcases look like? So I stayed on birth control for a few more years. Now, I didn't really understand face mapping to the full extent until I was trying to fix the situation of my skin the second time. And I was struggling to really get there because I was trying to do it holistically. And honestly, it just takes time, because you have to heal your gut. You have to balance all the things. You actually really, it's so much about stress and getting your body in check that way. And so I started seeing an esthetician locally to kind of go through and have sessions and to figure out what was going on. And I was playing with intermittent fasting at the time, and listening to her talk and like her asking me questions was really when I started noticing just how specific certain breakouts were on my face to what was happening in my body. And so I get them now, and that's why I wanted to do this video today, in very specific places when very specific things are happening in my body. But I will say this takes time to learn. I've done a food sensitivity test. I did the Everlywell test at the beginning of this YouTube journey. You guys have probably seen that video. It's one of my very first videos. It's not necessarily the best ever, but it exists. And a lot of the stuff that I learned from that particular food sensitivity test is stuff that I still use today. I still am sensitive to all of the things that I was sensitive to when I took that test. They still very much show on my skin. So like you can see, I've covered it with concealer now, but there's a little spot right there because I had gluten the other day. Now, I tend to not eat these things just because I know my body doesn't like them. I know how my body reacts to them, but I will have them once every few months, maybe once a month a little bit, but I try to have them every so often so that it doesn't become such a like sensitivity that I have like a full-blown like allergy to it, and I don't want it to be one of those things where I turn around, it's like a peanut allergy kind of situations where you haven't had it, you've removed it so much that I'm like uber sensitive to it. I don't want that. That doesn't seem like a good idea to me. So had gluten, that spot showed up very quickly. If I have cinnamon, I get little spots right here. If I have refined sugar, I have a little spot right there because I had a bit of the ice cream on bought the other day. And so the mapping works. It's very specific. It works differently for different individuals, but I will say the biggest thing that I learned in the process of that, good morning bear, is that what we often call hormonal acne in this region is very specific to how we're eating, when we're eating, what we're eating, and just what's going on. So like there were I was getting little spots up here, and at the time I was playing with intermittent fasting. And so what happened was I was testing it to see how it would work for me, for video, for YouTube, for all of that stuff. And between sessions, just and giving my body that window to like not have to deal with food and to not have to try to digest and deal with all of the things, it was calming my digestion down. It was giving my gut and my digestion a chance to heal, and my esthetician could see that in my skin. So for me, getting the breakouts down here, which is a bigger hormonal bet, was so much changing my skincare routine and making sure that I was actually using one that worked for me, which also meant that I had to realize that having hormonal acne is not the same as having regular acne. Like you can have dry and sensitive skin, but you don't always need to treat it like it's acneic, because what happens is you overly dry it and then it just ends up hating you and not working and not doing what you wanted to do with your life. And so I changed my skincare routine, and that was another big thing for me. And I think there will be a blog post on it next month, kind of diving into the difference between the two. But for the longest time I was following, you know, everybody else's routines for what worked for them and what I thought would work for me and what I should use and what I shouldn't use. And I kind of found certain products, but I didn't really realize, which always sounds very strange to say, just what was drying out my skin, what was actually like functional for me, because I live in Florida, and it wasn't until I moved away the first time that I realized that I have a tendency to have drier skin because I have humidity all the time. So even in the winter months, I don't necessarily have to deal with the fact that like I have a drier skin. And I really noticed it, you know, when we were in Paris last fall for sure. And when I started having to use eye cream when I was living somewhere else, because I was suddenly getting, you know, like really dry under eyes, but I needed a bit more of a hydrating skincare routine than I was using to really get my skin to calm down. And so that's major for me. Like I have to change my moisturizer with the seasons, and I still need a good daytime moisturizer. I've been playing with that. I've been trying to find one that I like, that's in my budget, that does what I want it to, that also doesn't pill with the other products that are essential for me. But the second part of that was using a BHA acid toner. So I tend to go in with a cleanser. I used to be like, oh, cleansers aren't as bad for me, like I can kind of use whatever, but I can't. It doesn't work like that. My skin's quite picky about cleansers and what does and doesn't work for it, and especially with them drying me out, but also just in the fact that some of them also break me out. But the second part of that being, I was trying to use like an AHA toner, which I still will use occasionally because those are really great at kind of making your skin smoother and helping you slough off any of the like dead skin buildup. So those are a part of my occasional routine, but for every day and for getting rid of especially the tiny bumps, like I think I have like 1 or 2 going on right now. This is a really odd camera to use this for, sorry guys. The tiny bumps right there, the best way I found to get rid of them is a BHA toner. Like that's just what works for me. It tends to keep everything nice and happy and functional, but I didn't know that because I was kind of going off of everybody else, and a lot of people I followed weren't in the position that I was in, and they either had more financially available, and so they were able to get facials done and all of these things done regularly. So they might not have been struggling with certain things that I was battling with, whereas I needed a very solid skincare routine every day that would help me get rid of all of the stuff. So yeah, I paused and you can kind of see it right now. So I still have a little spot there from earlier this week when I had gluten. That's a slight scarring bit, and every now and again I'll get, like, if I don't clean my sunglasses really well, and that's something my esthetician told me, you'll get the like extra little millibits up here, but I can tell when I haven't been eating right or haven't been doing things right because things will build up. I'll get the digestion spots in here if I haven't eaten something that my body is like, no, like, this doesn't work for your digestion. Not necessarily that it doesn't work, like I have a sensitivity to it. Like, I tried to add in the Simply Gangster inulin into my everyday routine, and I was getting like spots up in here, which meant my digestion was like, no, we don't want this, we don't like this, no thank you. But food wise, it's very much like tiny spots around here, and sometimes the common sensitivities are gluten, soy, corn, milk. I had a lot of little spots up here, and when I got rid of dairy, that's not really an issue. I don't really ever worry about acne up there anymore, thankfully. But yeah, the little, like, if you're getting the little spots up here, and they aren't necessarily huge hormonal breakouts, depending on how inflamed your body is, depending on how long you've been dealing with this and just how destroyed your gut is, this might be a different situation. I think that a lot of times we're like, oh, here's all these products to topically put on your skin, but we don't actually take care of the fact that, like, we've been eating all this junk and our body isn't able to really heal because it's been dealing with all of the inflammation from all of the things that we've been eating, all of the sugar, all the crap, all the stuff that our body doesn't like. So dealing with all of that is also part of the process, but it takes time to really figure that out. And I will say, at some point in this journey, I did switch to clean skincare. And for me, that was really, if you read all of the acne books, one of the things you'll read consistently is that you need to watch out for the toxins that you're using. You need to clean up your skincare routine. You need to do all this stuff. And I got so frustrated by the fact that I was reading all of these things and, like, nothing was happening because people aren't also talking about the fact that it's not just one thing. Like, there is no singular thing that is the winner and the cure-all for your acne. It's coming from several places, and a lot of it takes time. But my thought was, if I'm using these products and maybe I'm using these things that my body doesn't adore, hopefully removing them even temporarily or like at the slightest amount will give my body a chance to heal from it. So that was what I did. And that's definitely an expensive journey. It took me quite a bit of time to do that, but I want to say that, you know, there are a lot of really great clean skincare products on the market that don't work for acne people, don't work for hormonal acne, because you still need a little bit of punch to it. And for me, it ended up being like, okay, well, what is the point of me being clean if my skin is awful? I'm not happy. I'm mentally unhappy. Like, why am I doing this? It's not worth it to me. And so I had to kind of compromise, and that felt like a big thing because I'm very much like, I don't want to be like a half doing it person, but at the same time, like, what's the point of being miserable if you're going on this journey and you're like, oh, I really, you know, I'm trying really hard, I'm doing all of these things. Sometimes knowing too much doesn't really help your case. So for those of you out there who preach all of the clean things all of the time and are struggling to actually get the results that you want, I understand your woes. I've been there. I feel it. I sympathize with you. And you kind of just have to find that center compromise for yourself and what that looks like. So don't be surprised if you need a product with a toner or something that somebody out there thinks that you should not have, because that is what your skin needs to get rid of the acne. But yeah, so it has been a good year since I feel like I really found all of the products that work for me, and I just recently added in a moisturizer for winter that I know makes like a huge difference for my skin. I'm also waiting on a Black Friday order from Dermstore, which heaven knows with the way that we're dealing with things this year when that'll come in, but I bought a few new things to try, and I will do a skincare routine at some point during our time together this month. But yeah, I did just kind of want to sit there and talk through all of that because I know that so many of you are on your own journeys of getting clear skin, of getting skin that makes you happy, of not feeling like you're struggling with acne anymore, and also just wanting to like figure out what that looks like. And for me, that was such a long process of knowing it, and now like I can know exactly where I'm gonna break out. Like I know all of the things that my skin is gonna be like, yep, nope, that one right there, that's where that came from, don't do that. Or yeah, that's where that breakout came from, don't do that. So it just takes a lot of time and learning your skin. Hi Bear. Hi Olive. And yeah, so I hope that today's journey has helped you, and that wherever you're at, you can kind of learn to read your map. If you have specific questions, let me know down in the comments below. I will say again, you kind of have to learn it for yourself, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But there you have it. So if you haven't done a food sensitivity test, I would highly recommend checking that out. I'll link the ones that I like down below. They're definitely a great starting point, especially if you just are having breakouts, you have things that are going on, and you don't really feel like you're getting a solution with skincare or with what's going on, and you also think that you kind of need a starting point, a really good direction. That was something that was major for me, is I did a food sensitivity test, and eventually I did a hormone test, and kind of used that information to really gear what I was attacking and how I was attacking what was going on with my body in a more holistic sense. And that was what worked for me. Again, not medical advice. Do what works for you. I'm just sharing my experience. But yeah, it's been major in helping me kind of get over those hurdles, over dealing with constant acne, constant issues. And a lot of it was major lifestyle changes. Some things, you know, were temporary, and you could kind of add things back in. We do build up sensitivities to things when we eat them all of the time. Sometimes our bodies just need a break, but for me it ended up being a big overhaul for my lifestyle, and I love it now. I'm quite happy with how I eat and how I live and what works for me. But I know that sometimes you need somebody else to like share their story and tell you how they got there for you to be able to do it for you, because it doesn't always seem like the most fun, but there is something on the other side of it. So I love you guys. It is a good day to have a good day. Make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, I will be uploading content all month long, as well as there is a recipe of the day dropping on the blog and some additional blog posts as much as I can make those happen. But all of the content is happening here on my YouTube channel, on the blog, for a very savvy Christmas. So I hope you all have a beautiful day. Bye guys.